Now we have half an hour. Any 2 or 3 questions can be taken up before the afternoon. Yes?
Is it true that once you take initiation like Kriya, that a bond gets established for lifetimes with the Guru or the person giving you the Kriya? In a way, implications of Kriya.
Applies not only to Kriya. It doesn't apply only to Kriya. Kriya is only one of the ways of doing it, called initiation. It applies actually, but it is voluntary, it's not enforced. Not enforced. Which means, for instance, if somebody initiates you, now initiation is a loaded word. When you say initiate, it's not just giving you something. It means putting you in touch and turning your direction. The Sanskrit word for initiation is diksha. Diksha means to show you the dig, which way to go. So if somebody is serious, the student is serious and the teacher is serious, and they say, okay, this is the way you have to go, and you're put into some practice or chant or mantra, whatever, it doesn't matter, or even just meditation. Now it's in the best interest of both, not both, more the student, that they stick to it and continue to practice it without running around here and there, window shopping. You know what I mean? It's in the best of interest. Nothing terrible will happen if you go. That is not the problem. The terrible is for yourself. That instead of doing this, you go around here, there, waste your time and energy and learn things which... So, there is a bond, but that bond is not bondage. Please understand. It's not bondage, it's a friendly bond. It's a bond of understanding between the two. So therefore, the corollary to this is, before you do accept something from somebody, think properly and say, am I really serious about this? Should I do it? Or, anytime I can say no. So take a good decision on this. But because you have taken a diksha or initiation into any practice, it could be any, not just Kriya, from somebody, it does not mean that you cannot learn from other sources. But when you sit down to meditate, you should think that this is the key connection that I have. That is there, it's all right. There is no problem. But what I mean to say is there is no punishment. that is terrible.
So you talked about deep sleep, and when you wake up from deep sleep, you say, that was nice. So you experience some bliss in deep sleep. What's the connection between the bliss that you feel in deep sleep?
The
connection between the bliss you feel in deep sleep and the actual transformation of your consciousness and mind.
Until and unless your consciousness has become... When you say consciousness, you know only about the mind, right? We don't know anything beyond that. So only when your mind has become quiet, completely quiet and tranquil, that it is even possible to experience the awareness of bliss in deep sleep. Otherwise it is not possible. That is the key. Otherwise why? Oh, there is Turiya, there is the Brahman. So, what is it to me? Nothing. That my mind, in its quiet state, in its samadhi. When I say samadhi, I am not talking about only a trance state. Trance is one of the ways of samadhi. When I say samadhi, I am talking about when the the thinking process becomes completely quiet. And samadhi, this is what I am talking about, right? In some trance states it happens, but when you are out of the trance, it is back again. So, perhaps there is something which lasts. When the mind becomes that way, then only you can actually become aware and alert during deep sleep. Otherwise it's not possible. In fact, if you have mastered all your desires, there's nothing to experience. You are not worried about this will go off, that will go off, what will I do? and so on. In that state, Turiya itself becomes Samadhi. But unfortunately, there is no way of touching Turiya through deep sleep. Don't think that if I sleep a lot, I should. You can take that as an example and say, this is nice, so I need to get this while still awake. If this happens in deep sleep, then it will last even when you are awake. Otherwise, it has no meaning. Right? So, you're functioning, and I'm doing many things right. Now, I'm talking to you. Yesterday I told her, don't put that frame. I'm doing all these things, I'm talking to everybody, I'm trying to explain things to you, but I won't believe this. I'm not doing anything inside. Is this possible? Well, if this is possible for me, it's possible for you. Why not? When the Gita says action in inaction, people think it means you stop all work, or when you are working, then you should be aware. No, it's as if there is something settled from which all these bubbles come and they disappear into that back to the source. I think it is possible. If it is not possible, I wouldn't be wasting time with you. Your time is valuable for you. So think about it. Yes.
You had mentioned in a previous retreat to keep our experience.
Which retreat?
Last year, May.
Okay.
To keep our experiences with ourselves. I didn't ask that question, somebody else.
Experience?
Any experience we have in our meditation, to keep it to ourselves, not to discuss it.
Yeah.
But I read the Sai Satcharitra, in which Baba says that speak about his leelas and share his experiences, and that will benefit the speaker as well as the listener. So I'm confused what to do.
If you are confused between what I said and what Shirdi Saibaba says, you follow that, is better. Really, seriously. Because there must be some reason why he said that. I don't think he said anything without some reason. So there must be some reason. When you say share the leelas, that doesn't mean that you should share your deepest spiritual experiences. If you read the Sai Satcharita, for instance, you'll see mostly people are sharing their experience. I didn't have a job, but you blessed me, I found a job. I didn't have a wife, you blessed me. All that, it's okay to share. Right? But if it's a deep spiritual experience, anywhere inside anybody is talking about the chakra awakening, no. These things you cannot share.
Thank you.
It might have happened, but not shared. I'm not saying it might have happened. Since we are on the subject, let me tell you. People tend to think that Shirdi Saibaba was a fakir sitting there. He was not aware of the Shastras or anything of the kind. There is a school of thought like that. But it is not true. I think sitting there, he was aware of all this, but he was not a person who had studied all this. It came to him by itself. To give you an example, there were two very serious scholars discussing something from the Upanishads and the Gita. In front of this man, who was just sitting there, and sometimes he would go out and smoke a cigarette and go, sitting there. So they thought, he is not listening to all this, he doesn't know anything about it. So they talked. And there was a confusion, because they say that finally, knowledge also has to be abandoned. Well, you learn, but then finally you need to get beyond abandon knowledge also. So they found it quite senseless. Why would we give up knowledge when it's so useful? So suddenly the old man told them, "Oh, so you are discussing this matter. Okay, I'm going to tell you a story." He said, Somebody went for a walk and a thorn got stuck in his heel. They thought, what is this connection with what we were discussing? I speak. Yeah, okay, he said, listen. So, but there was a problem, with him, that when you say listen, if you don't listen, you might get beaten up. So, they sat quietly. So, he said, a thorn went into somebody's heel. And then, what did he do? He didn't have any sharp thing. So he looked around and found another thorn in the grass. And he poked it and took out. The thorn got stuck in his heel. Then he said, so after that, did you put the second thorn into the heel or did you throw both of them away? He said, threw both of them away. Now you got your answer. Knowledge is used to pry out ignorance. But when that is gone, both are out. Where did this wisdom come from? A man who is sitting there all the time with a cloth on his head, a fakir. So there are certain aspects to this. But the problem is, people go to such people only for worldly needs. You know how many emails I get? I need a promotion. I'm married for 10 years, no child. I said, I'm 74, I can't help. I try to discourage. But there are some people like him who say, okay, we will give you what you ask so that you will ask for what I really want to give you. But nobody will ask. This is the problem.
Hello. So speaking of worldly things, so my parents have brought me here, and my mom and I talk about this a lot. And you had mentioned something about the stages of yoga earlier today, and I can't remember the name of it, but one of them you had mentioned, it comes, people will develop powers, basically. So if there, I don't mean to sound like a skeptic, but if there are people...
Vibhuti.
Huh?
Vibhuti.
Vibhuti. My understanding is that there are several yogis who have reached that level. So if they have those kinds of powers...
Believe me, yogis also are rich at the other level also, many yogis. Anyway.
If they have these kinds of otherworldly powers, why is it that they're not using them to, I don't know,
alleviate poverty?
Yeah, stop world hunger.
My daughter asked me the same question, that's why I'm saying.
Your daughter asked you the same question? Friends. Stop world hunger, stop wars, world peace, etc.
They do.
They do?
Yes.
And this is what it's like?
And the situation that is balanced now without worsening is probably because of them. Otherwise they would have destroyed each other long ago.
Really?
Yes. It may not be visible. Yeah, seriously. And plus, the job of the yogi is to change the minds of others so that they use their capacities to bring about change. One person cannot sit down and do everything. So we try to change people's minds so that they also work on it. The greatest miracle, the greatest vibhuti, is to change a person's mind. Other things don't matter. Other things don't matter. Other things you can buy, but to change a person's mind is the biggest vibhuti. If that is there, then you can bring about a lot of change in the world. Single-handedly you cannot change other people's minds. It's not easy. Because the mind is the most difficult thing to change. So people, in the olden days they used to talk about the philosopher's stone.
Yeah, like Harry Potter.
Yeah, which could... Correct. So, philosopher's stone, which could... base metals can be changed to gold by touching and so on. I think it's a metaphor. Nobody can make copper into gold. It's a metaphor, which means the base mind, touched by a spiritual person, can be changed to gold. When I say gold, it means golden. This is the real alchemistry, yes. In fact, the word alchemistry is an Arabic word. It comes from alchemia, which means the chemist. That is the greatest chemistry. So anyone who has this capacity certainly is looking forward to making things better in this world. Yeah, but we also try to change people's minds so everybody thinks, what is this world, public, everything is made up of human beings, right? Human beings. So if one human being changes, it matters a lot. It influences across so many layers. One human being can bring good, one human being can bring evil, both. Because there is so much strength. One Hitler could do things. Right? In the same way, think of being a good Hitler. You know what could have happened? Good things would have happened. As a metaphor.
My question is about karma and how you mentioned about we have evolved through previous lifetimes. There is genetic DNA. We don't remember all that. We remember what we do in this
Influence,
life.
yes.
Yeah. So, and we categorize our karma into good karma and bad karma based on consequences, and when we suffer. My question is, through the yogic path and Kriya Yoga, how can one negate the effect of bad karma that they have done?
So, let me put it this way. The karma theory is based on a simple fact that there cannot be an effect without a cause. There cannot be any effect without a cause, right? So if you're feeling or going through some effect now, there must be a cause somewhere. If you can't find the cause in this life, it must have been somewhere, if you believe in past. For me, it's not a belief. Anyway, since you don't know, okay. So the problem is, what cause has caused this effect now from the past? You cannot go back and tinker, can you? No, you cannot. So what is left to us? What is now? What we have now. So we have to examine where we stand now and try to work on this so that in future you will not get into the same suffering as you did before because of the past. Because today's present is going to be tomorrow's past. And what you do today is going to decide the future. So the only thing we have is the present. So what we have to check on this is, what are the things that I will do or should be doing or living in such a way that I am free of the effects of suffering that have come to me because of some past which I can't go back and tinker. I don't even know. Sometimes I think it's unfair because I don't know what I did, right? Sometimes. So, therefore, all the spiritual paths teach you basically how to handle this so that you don't produce more negative karma, so that you don't suffer in the future and also in this life. So, therefore, if you said Kriya, yes, Kriya is meant to raise the level of your thought processes from the gross to the subtle and subtle and subtler. And in the process, you will come across some resistance also, but let's say obstacles, which you need to tackle. And Kriya teaches you how to tackle this. And because you need a lot of energy to do this. What happens to us is our energies are so dissipated in unwanted things that we cannot collect them together and use them as a wrong word to use, but I would say weapon, to cut across these obstacles. This is what Kriya is supposed to be doing. But it's not just the practice of Kriya, the very attitude of life, understanding that whatever I do, I'm responsible for it. The effect will come. If not today, it will come tomorrow. So be on guard. And the practice is meant to not produce more such karma. Because it's obvious, we can't go back and tinker.
I had a question. When you were traveling with Babaji, you both were engaged in a discussion where Babaji had mentioned to you that there were 21 attributes, 21 qualities or attributes an individual should have to receive Kriya. So I was wondering if you could elaborate on those.
In fact, if you read that incident, I told Babaji that I'm not going to teach Kriya to anybody in this world because this is impossible. The conditions which, look, to say that if you need to teach Kriya, a person should be living alone, unmarried, he should be a Nitya Brahmacharya. I said, this doesn't work. I don't want to teach Kriya. I cannot do it. I actually rebelled. I said, who is going to do Kriya? I said, I am sitting here, Babaji, you know, it's because my mother and father were not brahmacharis. I didn't write all this in the book, of course. It's too much to write. I said, show me some way where people can practice. Some simple rules which people can follow and practice. So finally, after a great deal of, I think it was done just to make me think and discuss. I don't think there was any bad intention in what he said. So finally, we came down to just 4 things necessary. I said, now, yes, if you tell me teach, I will teach, but I still don't want to teach. He said at one time there will be lots of people coming. I said, is there some way in the Himalayas is a cave where I can live? I don't want to go out there and get caught up in these matters. I don't want people coming to me. He said, it's your job, you do it. So I said, okay, Adesh. We always say Adesh in our parampara. The 4 rules are very simple. One, simple but not so easy. One is, try to be as truthful as you can. Yama niyamas. You know, like in yoga, Yama niyamas, asana, so it starts with Yama niyamas. As far as possible, try to be truthful. Not always possible in this world. It's very difficult. It's not so easy, but try your best. That much. Look, if I'm not truthful, for instance, what if all I'm saying is a fib? It's very simple. So you have to be truthful first. And when you are truthful, then you're moving closer to the truth. It's not as if you can move to the absolute truth when 24/7 you live in a world of lies. I mean, this is not possible. So attempt to live as much as possible to stick to the truth. That's all that is required. Attempt. And if it is true and if it offends you, don't say it, just keep quiet. That much we can do, right? Okay. The second is, try to practice daily. Daily, on a daily basis, which is possible. We take the dogs out for a walk daily, right? So why not? Then, third, try living without causing injury to other living beings. Sorry. I said, first 2 you heard? First 2. The third is, as far as possible, try to live in this world without causing injury to other living beings. Now, when I say other living beings, please include human beings also into it. I feed ants every morning, but I don't mind bumping off my business competitor. This is not ahimsa. So, as far as... Now, when you say without causing injury to other living beings, Don't think it's just physical. Sometimes words are more injurious than a physical act. If you slap somebody, it might be forgotten in 2 days. If you call somebody a fool, especially if they think they are wise, now this is not going to be forgiven till many births. The ego is the most difficult problem. So, try. So what do we do then? I have formulated a few rules for myself. One is, before you say something, think. Don't suddenly blabber. Before you speak, think for a minute. What do you think? What am I going to say? What am I going to say? It doesn't stop there. Also, is this the right person to whom I should say this? Imagine somebody who had a big fight with his wife and came to me. And I said, love your wife. It's good, but I can't say this to this guy. He might probably get up and leave with his bag. So, one is think 1 second before you talk, what am I going to say? Is it the right person I'm going to say this to, even if it is the truth? And third, is it the right situation to speak? Both the other 1 and 2 may be okay, but it may not be the right situation, right? So if you just keep this in mind, 80% of the problems are avoided. So these are about all you need to do. Is there a fourth thing? Oh. That I didn't want to say. And the last one is, don't set up shop. Okay? You come to me and then you learn Kriya. And then you go out after 4 days and say, I'm also teaching Kriya. So who taught you? Shri must have taught you. Then that must be authentic. So what do we do about it? Just $5,000 you send it. Kriya is authentic. So don't set up shop. First of all, we need to improve. We won't know how to deal with problems, and then we try to teach others. So that's why we don't have this franchise affair here. It's like Starbucks. We don't have that franchise. That's why I find it very difficult. I said, let people come and learn. If they don't come, it is okay. But I still don't like, I teach you. After 6 months, you are a teacher. How is this possible? I worked hard all my life. After 6 months, you are a teacher. Then you teach and you charge and you send me for 20%. Is this Starbucks? What is it? So I don't do that. So it is difficult, I understand. But in spite of the difficulty, we cannot do this. That's what I meant.
Where you say, think before you speak, you're still thinking.
Yes.
Like, let's say you say you're thinking of something bad. Going back to karma, isn't that?
No. What I said was completely different. What I said was a practical aspect of, even though you want to speak the truth, this may not be the right place to say the truth. This is what I meant. Yeah. So, suppose I want to speak the truth. And I go, the truth is that the supreme reality which we seek, divine God, whatever you want to call it, is everywhere. Now I go into a church in a big congregation going on and I say, what are you guys doing here? It's everywhere. I mean, is that the right place? Whether it's true, but is it the right place to say that? No. Even though, if you go to the Bible and look at the Lord's Prayer, there is no mention of public prayer. When you pray to your Father in secret. This is how it starts, the Lord's Prayer. And He shall reward thee openly. Go into thy closet. When thou hast shut thy door, pray to thy Father in secret. This is the Bible. I am not quoting anything from outside. But then in social circumstances, to keep people together, all these things are there. I agree. I'm not saying. So there you cannot go and say this, right? This is the Lord's Prayer, what are you doing? You'll probably be thrown out. You're unnecessarily creating problems, social problems. This is what I meant. Last question, it's 12 o'clock, sir.
Thank you for taking my question. So this is a continuation what you already started talking about. So you said that Kriya should not be done mechanically, kind of.
Mechanically, yes.
Mechanically,
yes.
So what is the right mental attitude? What is the right intention? How can we keep the practice going? And this is actually kind of connection to what you just said. It's kind of perfect moment that you said, it started with 21 rules, which are not simple rules. I think the essence of those rules is how much dedication do you have to truth.
Absolutely.
Are you able to let everything go and just
Yes.
kind of keep truth?
Right.
Personally, I always failed at that.
So if you apply this to Kriya, you got it.
Okay.
Plus, to the practice of Kriya, see, sometimes, like everything else, it could become repetitive. I understand this. It could become repetitive. But then to stick on, no matter you feel it from the heart or not, and not give it up, and keep sticking to it, and one day it will move and come back to normal. This is very important. Ask him, this guy, even if his wife calls him, he doesn't come when he's doing Kriya. I mean, I'm saying that's a difficult thing to do, right? So, and he has been doing Kriya every day for several years now. And even now, in the dinner, when he's called, he says, I will come after Kriya, even if I'm having dinner. So, we have to stick to it. And I think because of that, he is okay. He's doing all this, but so there are many examples. I'm sure people can do it. And if your priorities are fixed, then thank you.